We could be gods, what is it like? Don't wanna argue, be ready to fight. Set up our nature, but dim in our light. Quick to those stones, now that just ain't right. We could be kings, ready to rule. Destined for much, but we acting like fools. Deal with the ruach, just paying our dues. Behavior be wicked instead of Hebrews. We could be gods, what is it like? Don't wanna argue, be ready to
Shabbat Shalom, family. It's your boy Solemn Prophet. We got another Shabbat talk with me and Joel, and today we pulled our sister on. Sister Jatina, go ahead and say hi to everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Yes. Yeah. Today we just freestyling. We hanging out, we talking, we having an open discussion. We in the Torah, you know what I'm saying? Joel is leading this week.
Oh, I'm not leading it? Okay.
Joel leading? He ain't know. He did know. He knew he was leading. He knew. Well, yeah. Joel, go ahead and talk to the people. But yeah, before we started, we was talking about having a firm foundation in Torah before kind of branching off and going into some of the other books, even the other texts that are out there. It's important to have a foundation in Torah because you can easily start to get a different perspective and understanding of the scriptures that's not actually what the context of the scriptures are talking about. So like if somebody's never read the Bible before, a day in their life, and they open up the Bible, I wouldn't advise them to just automatically turn to the back or automatically go to, one of the various different texts in the New Testament, because if they don't understand the Torah, which not only, and I'm not just talking about the law of Moses, right? When I say Torah, I understand Torah is law, Hebrew, the Hebrew word for law is Torah, but I'm also talking about learning the way of life, learning their culture, learning at least briefly, examining the language, right? Because I'm not saying you got to learn Hebrew fluently to understand the Bible. That's not what I'm saying. But learning their culture, their language, how they did, what was the time period during that time. Those things are important to understand before you start branching off and going into the later books and stuff. Because the Bible is a lot of things, but it's also chronological. And so when you open up a book, you don't start reading the back of the book. Like what I mean by the back of the book, I mean like towards the ending of the book, not the synopsis on the back. So you don't just jump straight to the back, you gotta ride through. So that foundational piece is important to have because it sets the tone for the rest of the book. So when you read other parts of the book, you can refer back to the Torah and bounce your understanding off of the Torah to make sure that you have a firm foundation, because the people that you're reading from in the New Testament have a firm foundation in the Torah. So they already have that baseline that they're speaking from. And if you don't have that baseline, what they're saying is going to either go over your head or it's going to give you the wrong interpretation.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you don't just buy a novel, like no one's going to just go buy a novel and flip 2/3 of the way through it and start reading it and then be like, okay, I know what the whole book's about. You know what I mean? You've got to get all of the backstory, social, like what am I trying to say? Like the social practices, idioms also are pretty important to understand, because there's lots of figures of speech in scripture, and getting a full understanding of the culture and the social structure, the idioms, the way idioms were meant to be understood, because I mean, if someone's not from here, they don't know American idioms, and I tell someone to get off their high horse, they're gonna be like, I'm not riding a horse, what are you talking about? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's important to understand what these figures of speech mean as well.
Yeah, absolutely. and just the language in itself is so, I won't say complex, because I think that's doing Hebrew a disservice saying it is complex. I'll say that it can be confusing from a American English speaking perspective, right? Because like Joe says, matter of fact, Joe, go ahead and talk about the difference between Hebrew, the language of Hebrew, and the language of America in terms of, you always speak about it being phonetic and auditory.
Oh yeah. Well, with English, it's a phonetic alphabet, right? So each of the letters make a sound. They don't have any other meaning other than just the sound that they make. Whereas in like Chinese, for example, the Chinese characters don't make a sound; they have a meaning, right? So when a Chinese is reading it, it doesn't have a phonetic sound. It doesn't like A says A, B says B, you know, right? In Chinese, it's not like that. It's a pictographic meaning to the character. And most Western languages are phonetic, so their alphabets, you know, they don't really, the letters don't really mean anything other than they signify this is the sound you make when you read it, right? But with Hebrew, it's actually both. It's each Hebrew letter not only has a phonetic sound that it makes, but it also has a pictographic meaning. And lots of times you can determine the definition of a Hebrew word just by the pictographic meaning of the letters that comprise it. So like, for example, Ab, which means father, is Aleph, a bet. And the pictographic meaning of Aleph is a head, right? Ox head or a leader, right? And the pictographic meaning of bet is a house. So leader of the house is the pictographic meaning of the word father. So you it kind of contains the definition in the letters that comprise it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Appreciate you.
No.
No,
So,
I
yeah,
could
it's
have
just,
said it better. I wouldn't have been able to. I wouldn't have been able to. This is why I keep him, you guys. This is why I keep this man close. Yeah, like it's important.
Okay, so single mother who is not with a head has a house that's out of order.
I'm talking about in the Hebrew language.
Well, like culturally, the head of the house is the father or the husband, right? So a lot of what's going on in today's society has been intentionally mixed up and put out of order, right? And we're just here trying to do the best we can with what we're learning, discovering from Scripture. So, I mean, it's kind of it's just a different perspective, really.
Yeah. Like it kind of goes to it kind of goes into the whole certificate of divorce and why divorce was instituted to give protection, because in Hebrew culture, a woman or a girl, but you know, a female should always have a covering, right? And that covering for a young lady is typically her father, because she's going to be in her father's household. And so she grows up, and then, you know, a husband finds her, and then when she's married off to her husband, her head becomes her husband. and in a in a perfect situation, they'll be married until they die. So she'd have that head for the rest of her life. But in the event of a divorce, and divorce consists of three things. You have to write a bill of divorce, put it in her hand, and then put her away and send her away. Once you give her that bill of divorce and you send her out from your house, that husband is no longer that head. So in her case, she has, three options basically. She could return to her father's household, and he would continue to be her head again until she finds another husband. And then, like, if it was an event where he was unavailable or he died off or something like that, then she could go to the priest, and the priest would then provide for her and be that head until she found another husband, or she could, in theory, live there for the rest of her life too. But nobody wants to live with a priest for the rest of their life. But or she could do the unlawful thing, which would be to just go out and just purposely do her own thing and be without that headship. Now, when you talk about coverings, it's similar, but it's slightly different. A covering, like a woman, she isn't supposed to pray without her head covered, according to Hebrew culture. But her hair, a lot of people don't understand. It also says in the scriptures that her hair is to be her covering as well. So, if you see a sister and she's walking around and she doesn't have like a head wrap on or some type of head covering, it's not that she's out of order. She understands that the scripture says that her hair provides her a covering. Now, if she was walking around with a bald head, then that would be a different story, because, according to the scriptures, if you're bald, then that's a disgrace unto you. And so you would have to cover your hair until your hair grows back. You know what I'm saying? So, but people look at like covering and headship as like the same thing. And they think that, like, if you don't have a headship, then you gotta they mix it up, like, oh, well, you with somebody, so you don't have to have your head covered, or you're not with somebody, so your head should be covered all the time. Like, no, that's not the case. But like Joe was saying,
So I had to be covered all the time?
No. If you're praying, according to scriptures, if you're praying, your head should be covered.
Yeah, praying or prophesying, right?
Praying or prophesying, exactly. Yep. But like you asked, a single mother taking care of the household, is that out of order? Well, the thing about it is, in today's westernized time, because we're on the west side of the world, it's normal. And it's normal because it was their intention for it to be normal. And like what Joe was saying, they purposefully instituted certain things to literally take the man, the father, out of the home, from multiple different agendas, whether you want to look at it from the whole, the prison system, incarcerating all the men, or you want to look at it from the cultural and social system where they make infidelity just this norm that everybody conducts, and that's why people are breaking up and getting divorced and all of these different things, whatever the case may be. Violence, and a lot of our young men are dying, and they're leaving their kids and their wives, or their kids and their significant others, you know what I'm saying, to be left to fend for themselves. And then so the women are forced to have to step into their role. And so it wasn't naturally so, you know what I mean? Like, if you go back into the biblical times, it was your duty as a man to provide for your household, and you did that. Like, if you had a family, you took care of that family. So it wasn't, if you found a broken household where there was no father, there was a reason for it, right? Maybe he went off to war and fought and died, or maybe he died of like a sickness or something. There was something going on to prevent that man from being there. But they were so tight knit that even if he wasn't there, there was still provision, because that's one of reasons why the Torah is so good, because there's laws put in place to watch over and to take care of. You see what I'm saying? So no matter what, you know, things will happen. Things will be good. Like if you think of the story of Ruth, right? Because Ruth, her husband died and her sons died, right?
Right.
And one of her daughters-in-law decided to follow her to go back to Israel. But when they got back to Israel, right, their family helped them out, and then she gave Ruth advice, and Ruth went out and got a husband, right? And now both Ruth and her mother-in-law had headship again because Boaz provided that for both, and so it all worked out through, you know, that family. He was the what is it called? The Redeemer? Joel?
No, the kinsman redeemer.
Kinsman Redeemer, yeah.
That's based on the Levirate marriage, where basically if a man dies and and he was childless, he was married and he was childless, then the next of kin was supposed to marry his widow and bring up offspring for him, and then the child from his widow would be considered his child, right? Which is what was going on with Onan, I think his name was, I don't remember correctly, with Judah's children. Like he gets Tamar, and they marry. He marries Tamar, gets married to his oldest son, and he dies, and then he marries her to his next son, and then he dies, and he doesn't marry her to his youngest son because he's afraid that somehow he'll die too. But that's basically what it was. The reason the second one died was he intentionally spilled his seed on the ground because he didn't want to raise up offspring to his brother, because they wouldn't be legally considered his son; they'd be legally considered his brother's son.
Right.
But that's basically what was happening with Ruth there, marrying Boaz. He actually wasn't the closest of kin, but the whole story of how they found one that was closer, and then it was like this kind of a love drama of oh man, legally I have to marry this guy, but if he chooses not to, then I would go on and marry Boaz. And so Ruth wanted to marry Boaz, and they ended up Boaz confronted the one that was closer kinsman, and eventually Ruth ended up marrying Boaz. So.
Yeah, they went to him. He didn't want Ruth. He's like, I'm good. You can have her.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want it. You know,
one man's trash is another man's treasure.
yeah,
Facts. But
another thing about the headship and the importance of it is in Numbers 30, I think it's 30. Basically, where it says that a man is required to fulfill any vow that he makes, but a woman, while she's living in her father's house, or if she's married, her father or her husband can disannul any vow that she makes, and then it's not on her to fulfill the obligation. But if a woman doesn't have a covenant, she doesn't have a husband or a father, then so like a widow with her parents already passed away or whatever, any vow that she makes, she is required to keep it regardless of whether it was a foolish vow or not, you know, just like a spur of the moment emotional vow or whatever the case was. So it also provides a layer of protection for the woman to not have to, you know, everyone's guilty, I'm sure, of making vows they later regretted and possibly didn't fulfill, you know what I'm saying? And having or living in your father's house just adds an extra layer of protection against that, because your husband can just be like, no, you don't have to keep that, I disannul it, you know, because he's the authority in the family. Whereas if you don't have the husband, then it can't be disannulled, you have to keep it.
Right.
Okay.
It's some biblical concepts are a little bit more difficult to understand because we are now in a society and a time where women empowerment and what's the word? What's the movement called? Where like it's like women empowerment on crack though. It's like super.
Oh, isn't it like Me Too or something?
Feminism.
Oh, feminism.
Yeah.
Oh,
With
yeah.
that, with all of the stuff with that, like when you mention a biblical concept or principle that goes back to the traditional setup where the man is the head and the authority figure, it's not accepted. It's not as widely accepted in America and in our time. So a lot of people hear that and they think that, you know, those types of perspectives and principles are chauvinistic, and it goes against the liberation that has occurred over the last couple generations. So like when you talk about the Bible, you have to understand, you know, what the Bible was and what time period it was in there. And so when you say that you're following the Bible, although you live in a westernized society, you have to realize that you're not living by westernized society. You should be looking at the world through an easternized perspective. Yeah, you have to navigate through the westernized, like the laws and stuff that we have to follow and obey in the States are different from the biblical laws. So you have to be you know, wise like a serpent, you know what I'm saying? But you still have to be humble and adhere to the instructions that the Bible gives, as well as a culture that it sets. Right.
Yeah, you know, another way that Messiah talked about it was to be in the world but not of it. You know, you can be in a corrupted society and function in the society without being a part, you know, of it. You know, being immersed in it and accepting it and all that. It's you know, in it but not of it. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Did you want to get into those chapters and numbers, or
Oh yeah, we can. Or
answer some more of her questions? I'm sure she got a ton of questions. She was asking some questions on the coalition call.
yeah, actually, let's see here. I found where was that? Let me find it real fast.
You want to share your screen, or do you want to guide me? You want to be just like, you want to lead it, and then I just.
I actually didn't go into any of the additional readings that correlate with the Torah portion.
Okay.
Yeah, let's just go on and start with Numbers though. Let's start with number 16, and we can go from there if you want. It's really good to just read through this and get additional perspectives, people's takes on it, what this particular you know, what this particular passage is going to do or whatever, you know. So.
All right.
And so this is dealing with the rebellion of Korah. Now, basically, Korah thinking that he's better than Moses and he's more qualified and all that kind of stuff. So he leads a rebellion against Moses. You want me to read it, or do one of y'all want to read it?
Oh yeah, we can.
All right.
Me and
Yeah,
I'll
read it.
And you just let us know what verses you want to bring up.
I actually had to put together any type of commentary on it whatsoever. I read through it, but yeah, we'll just read through it. And if y'all have anything you want to say, or if anything comes to mind while I'm reading. Yeah. So now Korah, the son of Izhar, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi, and Dathan, and Abiram, and the son of Eliab, and On, the son of Peleth, son of Reuben, took men, and they rose up before Moses with certain of the children of Israel, 250 princes of the assemblies, famous in the congregation, men of renown. And they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron. So this is a pretty large number of people. They're coming together. Men of renown coming together against Moses. It's 250. It's quite a big group of people coming up to him. And they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron, and said unto them, "Ye take too much upon you, seeing all the congregation are holy, every one of them, and Yahweh is among them. Wherefore then lift ye up yourselves above the congregation of Yahweh." So they're basically like, look, the whole congregation's holy. Why are you so important? Is basically what they said to him. And Moses heard it and fell upon his face. And he spoke unto Korah and to his company, saying, "Even tomorrow Yahweh will show who are his and who is holy, and will cause him to come near unto him, even him who he hath chosen will he cause to come near to him. This do, take your censers, Korah and all his company, and put fire therein, and put incense in them before Yahweh tomorrow. And it shall be that the man who Yahweh doth choose, he shall be holy. Ye take too much upon you as sons of Levi." So basically, they says, "Oh, you think you're special, Moses?" And Moses is like, "Oh yeah, well, you think you're special, so why don't you go do this?" So, where were we? Sorry. Oh, okay. And Moses said to Korah, "Hear, I pray you, sons of Levi, seemeth it but a small thing unto you, that the Elohim of Israel hath separated you from the congregation of Israel, to bring you near to himself, to do the service of the tabernacle of Yahweh, and to stand before the congregation to minister unto them? And he hath brought thee near to him, and all thy brethren, the sons of Levi, with thee, and seek you the priesthood also." So basically, Korah being a son of Levi, they were wanting to be priests because only the sons of Aaron were priests, right? The rest of the Levites, they just did things around the tabernacle to maintain it and things like that. But Korah wanted to be a priest. He was like, I'm just as good as y'all, So now Moses is like, so you didn't think it was good enough to be a minister before the whole congregation? You actually want to be a priest also? So verse 11, "For which cause both thou and all thy company are gathered together against Yahweh and against and what is Aaron, and that ye murmur against him?" And Moses sent to call Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab, which said, "We will not come up. Is it a small thing that thou hast brought us up out of a land that flowed with milk and honey, to kill us in the wilderness, except that thou make thyself altogether prince over us?" That's also really we'll just go on from there. But
no, go ahead.
oh no, he just said that Moses brought them out of a land that flowed with milk and honey. So he was talking about Egypt, saying Egypt had milk and honey. Egypt was flowing with milk and honey. You brought us out here to the wilderness to kill us. That's which is, yeah, it's an inversion, just like we were talking about how everything is inverted, the truth is inverted, and that's basically what they had succumbed to. Anyway. "Moreover, thou hast not brought us into a land that floweth with milk and honey, or given us inheritance of fields and vineyards. Wilt thou put out the eyes of men? We will not come up." Interesting interesting also was the reason they're going through the wilderness for 40 years is because when they sent the spies into the land in it was in a previous Torah portion. They brought back an evil report and said, "Oh, we can't take it. We can't take it over. There's no way we can come against the inhabitants." And so because they disbelieved, only Joshua and Caleb got to go in because Joshua and Caleb were like, "No, let's go take." They were supposed to go take over the land, and they were supposed to already be in the land, and because they all listened to the evil report of the spies, they ended up not going into the land, and now they're complaining about it, which it was their own doing because they're the ones that listened to the spies and said, "Yeah, they're right. We can't take it over." Had they just said, "Nah, God said to do it. Let's just go do it." If they had just done that, they'd already be in the land instead of wandering in the wilderness right now. That's but now they're complaining about what they've already gotten for themselves. Anyways, and Moses was very wroth and said unto Yahweh, "Respect not their offering. I have not taken one ass from them, neither have I hurt one of them." And Moses said unto Korah, "Be thou and all thy company before Yahweh, thou and they and Aaron tomorrow. Take every man his censer and put incense in them, and bring ye before Yahweh every man his censer, 250 censers. Thou also and Aaron, each to his censer." And they took every man his censer and put fire in them, and laid incense thereon, and stood in the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, Moses and Aaron. And Korah gathered all the congregation against them into the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And the glory of Yahweh appeared unto all the congregation. And Yahweh spoke unto Moses and Aaron, saying, "Separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment." And they fell upon their faces and said, "O Elohim, Elohim of spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and that will wrath with the whole congregation?" And Yahweh spoke unto Moses, saying, "Speak unto the congregation, saying, Get you up from about the tabernacle of Korah and Dathan and Abiram." And Moses rose up and went unto Dathan, Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. And he spoke unto the congregation, saying, "Depart, I pray you, from the tents of these wicked men, and touch nothing of theirs, lest ye be consumed in all their sins." So they got up from the tabernacle of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram on every side. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stood in the door of the tents, and their wives and their sons and their full children. And Moses said, "Hereby ye shall know that Yahweh has sent me to do all these works, for I have not done this of mine own mind." For these men die the common death of all men. Or if they visited all the visitation of all men, then Yahweh hath not sent me. But if Yahweh make a new thing, and the earth open up her mouth and swallow them up with all that appertain unto them, and they go down quick into the pit, then ye shall understand that these men have provoked Yahweh. And it came to pass, as he had made an end of speaking all these words, that the ground clave asunder that was under them, and the earth opened up her mouth and swallowed them up, and their houses, and all the men that appertained unto Korah, and all their goods. They and all that appertained to them went down alive in the pit, and the earth closed up upon them. And they perished from among the congregation, and all Israel that were around about them fled to the city, fled at the cry of them, for they said, "Lest the earth swallow us up also." And there came out a fire from Yahweh, consumed the 250 men that offered incense. And Yahweh spoke unto Moses, saying, speak unto Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, that he take up the censer out of the thing, and scatter thou the fire yonder, for they are hallowed. The censers of these sinners against their own souls, let them make them broad plates for covering of the altar, for they offer them before Yahweh. Therefore they are hallowed, and they shall be a sign unto the children of Israel. And Eleazar the priest took the brazen censers wherewith they that were burnt had offered, and they were made broad plates for a covering of the altar, to be a memorial unto the children of Israel, that no stranger which is not of the seed of Aaron come near to offer incense before Yahweh, that he be not as Korah and as his company, as Yahweh said unto him by the hand of Moses. But on the morrow, all the congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron, saying, ye have killed the people of Yahweh. So now the whole congregation's like, oh, Moses, you killed our prophets, or our priests. Torah, he was a man of God. Why'd you kill him, Moses? Oh, I get it. It's actually kind of comical. Oh man. Okay. Sorry. And it came to pass when the congregation was gathered against Moses and against Aaron, that they looked toward the tabernacle of the congregation, and behold, the cloud covered it, and the glory of Yahweh appeared. And Moses and Aaron came before the tabernacle of the congregation. And Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, get you up from among this congregation, that I may consume them as in a moment. And they fell on their faces, and Moses said unto Aaron, take a censer and put fire therein from the altar, and put it on incense, and go quickly into the congregation and make an atonement for them, for there is wrath gone out from Yahweh. The plague is begun. And Aaron took as Moses commanded, and ran into the midst of the congregation, and behold, the plague was begun among the people, and he put on incense and made an atonement for the people, and he stood between the dead and the living, and the plague was stayed. Now they that died in the plague were 14,700, besides them that died about the matter of Korah. And Aaron returned unto Moses unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and the plague was stayed. So, yeah, that's pretty heavy stuff. Pretty heavy stuff. So there was this rebellion where 250 guys come up and wanted to be priests, and they said, "Oh, who are you, Moses? Who are you, Aaron? That you do all this, and we want to be priests." And they all got killed. Then the rest of the congregation of Israel come up and said, "Oh, how could you do that, Moses? Why would you kill Korah?" And it wasn't even Moses. And then so the whole congregation, and once again, Yahweh was going to destroy the whole congregation of Israel for rebelling. Again, it's like the third or fourth time that he was going to do it, and Moses was like, no, what we've got to do. And then he had Aaron go make atonement for them, and then a plague came, and 14,000 of them, over 14,000 of them died. It's just going through the Torah. It's over and over and over again, and it really just reminds you that it's very easy to fall victim to deception. The enemy can come and bring you a deception and make you think, oh, you're someone special, and when you're really not. Because Korah thought he was someone special. You know what I'm saying? He thought he and come to find out he wasn't. He got the ground opened up to him. So yeah, it's just it's a really really good good Torah portion. Did one of y'all want to read the next chapter, or you want to go to the next chapter, or did y'all have anything you want to discuss about this one?
You have any questions, Justina?
No.
No. Okay. I know it's not in numbers per se, but she was asking about the Sabbath and Shabbat.
Mhm.
And right now, between me and you is a pretty good Sabbath sandwich.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking like maybe it would be a good intro for her to learn about the Father's calendar.
Yeah. I'm not great at leading studies on that, but because I just don't know where to begin. I'm not good at organizing the information. I mean, I can
Okay, I could tell you what
once
I
it gets
know.
started, I mean, or I can answer questions or whatever.
Okay.
I can tell you what I know. So, like, I know the Sabbath start on Friday evening, sunset, and end Saturday evening, sunset. And I know we eat like flatbread, no yeast,
Mhm.
and I know we can eat like lamb. But I'm not sure if it has to be like grilled on a fire, or can it just be like in the oven?
I think you're talking about Passover.
Yeah,
Well, the commandment with
that's one
Passover
particular
is
high Sabbath.
what's that?
No, I was saying that's one particular high Sabbath where you have the Passover that's rolling right over into Feast of Unleavened Bread, and I think that's what you're talking about.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. Okay, like I know the Sabbath, right? The Sabbath is from Friday evening to Saturday evening, right?
It is not.
No.
A lot of people believe that, like so with that one, so like, okay, that was compounded. So the first part is, when does the day begin? The biblical day. And the biblical day begins in the morning, not the evening. I know a lot of people celebrate the evening time, like evening to evening, but it's actually morning to morning. And
See, and that's what's confusing to me, because in Genesis, when he was creating the earth, he would say it was evening and then morning in the first day.
Well, he doesn't, like, if you look at your text, like go to Genesis real quick.
And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. The light was, and that God saw that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness night, and called in the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning was the first day.
So it says the evening and the morning were the first day. It wasn't saying the evening and then the morning was the first day. It's just stating that a day is comprised of two separate parts, evening and morning. There's no chronological order in this text. It's just telling you that a day consists of evening and morning. It's not saying that evening comes first and then the morning comes after. It's not saying evening and then morning was the first day. It's just saying both are the first day.
Yeah, see, so basically, I'm trying to find a good thing on that, but I can never remember where it's at. Anyways, I can never remember the website.
No worries.
But so when he started doing the work, was it when was it they started doing the work on the first day? That would have been the morning, right? And then
And it was morning because what? He said, let there be light.
let there be light. Once the light came, then it's morning. He made the light, saw that it was good. Then evening came, and then morning, the next morning in day one. Then that morning, he started.
Well, and see, and I was asking a lot of pastors this question because he actually says, let there be light twice. And I was like, why would he do that? So I could be wrong, but I was thinking, okay, so that first light, it's not, I mean, that first light was him. He's the light of the world. That's how I looked at it, because he was like, look, where am I at? In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. Okay, yes, this the third, chapter 1, verse 3, where he says, let there be light. I believe that was his spirit coming into let there be light separating the darkness. So that was his light, his spirit separating the darkness. Because again, in 14, is it? Yes. 14, God says, let there be light in the firmament. So now he's talking about, he's going into the sun, the moon, the stars, and stuff like that.
Okay. So let me go. Let me go. Because I was looking for some info in my notes. Okay. So in the beginning, it says the Most High created the heavens and the earth. Right?
Right.
It says, and the earth was without form, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of the Most High moved upon the face of the waters. Right?
Right.
Okay. It says, and the Most High said, let there be light, and there was light. So
right.
At this point, everything was created.
Okay.
Now, when you go into the sun and the moon, right? Now you're getting into the assignment of the duties of those things he already created.
No, wait. You said everything was created when he said, let there be light?
In terms of the heavens and the earth. I'm not talking about the fish. In terms of the heavens and the earth, I'm not talking about like the fish and mankind. I'm talking about the heavens and the earth. And when he said, let there be light, because what gives us light in the sky?
The sun, the moon, and the stars.
Correct. But you don't see that until later, right?
Right, because he said, let there be light again.
Right, but that's when he was appointing those things to have jobs, right? Like that's like you being like a manager at a store, right? You hire, I don't know, 5 employees, and every employee understands that they work for you. And then on the first day of work, Akari, if you're gonna get in here making noise, go. On the first day of work, the manager appoints the positions. Okay, you're going to be a cashier. You're going to be a janitor. You're going to be the stocker that works in the back. You're going to be the person who works the money. Everybody were already working. They were already employees. The manager just had to basically give them their jobs. So the Most High created the heavens and the earth. So when he said, let there be light, the moon, the sun, the stars were there. They are light. That's what he created. As you continue to read all the way through verse 4, all the way through to verse 14, it's the appointment of those things and what those things jobs were going to be.
Yeah, see, you'll notice in Genesis 1:1, it says, in the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. But if you go through the rest of the creation week, with the exception of animals and people, it says that he made. Now, make and create, those are completely different words in Hebrew. And create means to cause something to come into existence, right? Make means to form something out of material that already exists, right? It also means to appoint or set in order, right? So when it says that he made the lights, the great light and the lesser light, they weren't created at that point. They were put into order and established, right?
Okay.
So like create is like making something out of nothing. Creating it means you're making something out of thin air. To make something is like turning sand into glass, right? You heat up sand, you melt it, and then it becomes glass. The glass, one would say you made that glass, right? But you made it out of materials that was already there, right? In the beginning, the Most High created the heavens and the earth. He created the sun, the moon, the stars, the earth. They were created. They're there. They're ready. They're ready to go. They're just waiting for him to tell them what to do. And then when he says he made the greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night, now what he's doing is he's taking the moon and he's
saying, all right,
yeah, right. He's giving the moon a job. You're the cashier. Moon, you're the cashier. Sun, you're the janitor. You know what I'm saying? Stars, you're going to be the person that works in the back. Now everything has its appointed designation to go forward. And that's what we're telling you. It's really important when we look into the actual translations of the language, because just by reading that, right, create and made in our mind as we're reading it for the first time on the surface level, they mean the same thing. And so it's really easy to get caught up in certain understandings, unless, without looking into what is actually being said.
See, that's what I need. I need a translator where I can translate the words to their real meaning.
Hold on, let me see. So
what book would I need to do that?
What I remember in the other study, we went into the Strong's Concordance. That's
Strong's
a really good,
Concordance.
useful tool. Yep. The lexicon is a useful tool. I like the lexicon because they work hand in hand with the Strong's Concordance. Those things are really good. And all you need is internet. You can buy your own Strong's Concordance and follow along with that way, but you can Google it without, you don't necessarily have to buy it. But real quick, I'm just going to give you a few of why people believe that the day begins at evening. You mentioned the first one where it says evening and morning was the first day. The other ones, if you go to, I'll just pull it up. It'll be Of all of the notes that I got on my computer, this actual topic is not, it's only in my phone. But if you go to Leviticus 23, 26 through 32. And Leviticus 23 is talking about all of the feast days, all the holy days that we're supposed to keep. It says, and the Most High spake unto Moses, saying, also on the 10th day of this 7th month, there shall be a day of atonement. It shall be a holy convocation unto you, and ye shall afflict your souls and offer an offer made by fire unto the Most High. And ye shall do no work in that same day, for it is a day of atonement, to make an atonement for you before the Most High your Elohim. For whatsoever soul it be that shall not be afflicted in that same day, he shall be cut off from among his people. And whatsoever soul it shall be that doeth any work in that same day, the same soul will I destroy from among his people. And then it says, ye shall do no manner of work. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. And here, and this is one of the reasons why they say the day begins at evening. It says, it shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest, and ye shall afflict your souls in the 9th day of the month at even. And it says, from even unto even shall ye celebrate your Sabbath. And so they go, see, you started at evening, and then it says from evening to evening you shall celebrate your Sabbath. And then they apply this to everything. They apply it to every Sabbath, and they apply it to every day. But when you read it, this from Eve, it says, what are we supposed to start celebrating in the 9th day of the month at evening? We're talking about the Day of Atonement, right? The scripture, the context is this is talking about the Day of Atonement. So if it says, from even unto even shall ye celebrate your Sabbath, and it's not plural, this is one word, singular word, this isn't your Sabbaths, right? Or it's not saying every Sabbath or every day, right? It says your Sabbath. It's talking about Day of Atonement. So from even unto even shall you celebrate Day of Atonement. So Day of Atonement starts at evening, but not everything else, right? And
then I'm on the wrong calendar, so the 9th month would not be correct.
correct. Where is, okay, right here. It says, these are the feasts of the Most High, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons. In the 14th day of the 1st month, at even is the Most High's Passover. So at even, Passover begins. But that's only for Passover. And that's only for Day of Atonement. Those are the only two. You can go through and read this whole chapter. There's nothing else starting at even outside of Day of Atonement and Passover. Those are the only two feast days that begin at Passover. And then it
So
says,
when is the 1st month?
You said when is the 1st month?
Yeah, it's not our January, is it?
No. It's
First month is Abib. It says in this. I think I should know that right off the top of my head. Anyways,
well, sometimes it's March,
spring.
Sometimes it's April, depending on how it falls.
Sometimes it's March, sometimes it's April. How would I know which one?
Well, that's the goal. We'll get you there for sure. We'll get you squared away, sis, I promise. But that's why I just wanted to show you. That's why people believe the day is at evening. but
Right.
nowhere else is there that, hold on 1 second.
I finally found it.
Tell me where to go
So
while I
it's,
look this up.
let's see here. The number 2, saved.com /
Oh, it's a website. Hold on. Oh, I thought you was giving me scripture. Hold on, I wasn't ready.
Oh yeah, no, sorry.
2besaved.com.
Yeah. / day study 1, or yeah.
/ day study the number 1.
Yeah, day study 1. Yep. That should do it. Now, it is important to note that I don't agree with everything that this website has to say, but they did a really good job with this particular study.
Facts. Disclaimer: Lyrical Entertainment Ministries, nor Shabbat Talk, nor Solid Prophet, nor Joel endorse or say that we believe in everything that this website is saying. We're just making a point out of some of the. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Hey, did it sound official? Hey, brother Lucas on Seven Trumpets Prepper, he always hit him with that disclaimer in the beginning.
Yep.
Okay, where we going?
Now, this is just a good study, very thorough and in-depth study. You can go on through the whole thing. It shows all the scripture.
Oh. Yo, I'm sure it got a lot of what I was gonna pull out because I was just scrolling.
Probably.
Ooh, yeah. Because I was trying to find it in, was it in Matthew or the sepulcher? I know it's in here, right?
In Matthew?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean where I think that's John.
And to dawn.
Can't find it though.
What am I doing right now?
There we go. John 2019.
John 2019.
Yep, John 2019. This one here pretty much just completely ends the whole the started evening debate.
Yeah, that's the one I wanted to go to. We'll send you this link. I'm gonna go through this another time, and I'll actually get this, like, if it's good to go out, get it on a Word doc and get it squared away.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna keep that up there. You said John 20?
Yeah, John 2019.
I'm just pull up the whole. There's a couple things. Okay. So check this out. It says, the first day of the week cometh Mary Magdalene early, when it was yet dark, unto the sepulchre, and seeth the stone taken from the sepulchre. Right? So it says, the first day of the week, when it was yet dark. Okay. Now check it out. It says, then the same day at evening, being the first day of the week. Now check this out. If evening is the beginning of the day, then it shouldn't be still the first day of the week. Does that make sense? We read in verse 1, it said that the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene came early when it was yet dark, right? So it was still dark and the sun had not rose yet, but it was dark. But it was the first day of the week. And then when you go down to verse 19, it says the same day at evening, being the first day of the week.
And that
So
word
it
for
means-
dark is a little misleading as well because it really means dim. It means that basically dawn had happened. There was a little bit of light. It's like early in the morning when you get a little bit of
early
light,
in the
but
morning,
the sun's not up. You know what I'm saying?
If you get up at like 5 or like 5:20, because in most places the sun rises at 6 o'clock. So like if you get up at like 5:20, 5:30, and you look at the horizon, it's still dark outside because the sun hadn't fully rise, but you can see that little crescent of light creeping over the clouds, creeping over the horizon. It's kind of letting you know that the sun will be rising really soon, but it's still dark because the sun hasn't fully come out yet.
And it's still morning.
And it's still morning, right?
Okay.
But that same day at evening being the first day, if the biblical day was evening to evening, then when it hit evening, it should have said being the second day of the week. It should have started a new day.
Yeah, it should have said the next day at
The
evening.
next day or the second day. Yeah. It should have, the time frame should have
Shifted over to the next day.
shifted over. Yeah. I mean, this is just one example where there's plenty. When I tell you it's plenty, oh, it's plenty. I can send you some stuff you can look up. It's plenty. But the goal of today, I guess, is the Sabbath itself. So we won't spend too much time on the day, but this is just to show you the biblical day begins in the morning, not the evening, right? So
Okay.
Sabbath will begin in the morning, not the evening. The only two Sabbaths, or not even Sabbaths, the only two holy days is Passover and Day of Atonement, where those begin in the day prior at evening.
And really the purpose for that is because if you eat leaven one night and the next morning you wake up, it'll still be in your system, right? It's still be in your stomach and all that. So if you stop eating it the night before, by the time you get up the next day, it'll all be out of your system. Or essentially with the Day of Atonement, because it's a day of afflicting yourself and fasting, etc. If you stop eating on the evening, and then you can go. By the time you wake up that morning, you don't have anything in your stomach anymore.
Okay.
Whereas if you ate something right as you were going to sleep, the next day you still have something in your system. You know?
Yeah. And just to elaborate, Mark 16, it talks about the same thing. And this is, we read in John, right? Now we're reading in Mark. Both are part of the Gospels, but they're both saying the same thing. And Mark elaborates just a little bit more. It says, and when the Sabbath was past, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Salome had bought sweet spices that they might come and anoint him. And very early in the morning, the first day of the week, see, it's letting you know it's very early in the morning. The John account of this is saying while it was yet dark, but Joel elaborated and said that word is talking about light, a slight amount of light being dim. But this confirms very early in the morning. So when I said, like, if you wake up at like 5:20 or 5:30 and you still see that little bit of light, it's still dark outside, but it's early morning because it's right before the sunrise. This confirms it. So it's not just like I'm creating something out of thin air. I'm not creating or making anything. You know, there's a little Genesis joke right there. No, nobody? Okay. Anyways, all right. So very early in the morning, they came unto the sepulcher at the rising of the sun. Right, at the rising of the sun. So if it's very early in the morning of the first day, so it's a couple of things to talk about, right? Very early in the morning of the first day of the week is the first thing. The second thing is at the rising of the sun. So this confirms, because we know in the morning for us, the sun is rising. The sun rises and then the sun sets, and then when the sun sets, it becomes evening, and that signifies the end of the day, not the beginning of the day. Because if it was about that, then it would have said very early in the morning of the first day. Then it would have talked about the setting of the sun, not the rising of the sun. So you can see it from two different perspectives, two different books, the same account. One is actually elaborating further on the other one to get that firm understanding.
Yes. So I was confused because of the beginning in Genesis. That's what made me think that it was evening to evening. But okay.
You know,
That's
there's a lot of
yeah.
people that teach that, and actually, I did at one point believe that it was evening to evening, but upon further study, actually going deep into it, studying it out, I realized now it can't start at evening, and it doesn't really make any sense, because if you really think about it, God's calendar makes sense. It doesn't make sense that the year would begin in the middle of the winter, right? It makes more sense that the year would begin at the beginning of spring, right? Same thing with daytime. It doesn't make sense that a day would start at nighttime, right? Because it's a day, you know. Day is when the light is, and night is when the dark. So a day wouldn't begin with dark, because that's not what a day actually is.
I know that's right, Mama Bear. I know that's right. But yeah, like the evening and the morning was the first day is like the same thing as saying, if you had multiple kids, say you had 2 kids, right? You could say,
Right.
I have 2 kids, you know, James and Michael. Now, James could be younger than Michael. You're not saying that one came first or came after. You're just basically stating that you have 2 kids and those are your 2 kids. You know, so somebody reading you say that or listening to you say that, they may assume that James is the elder because you said them first, and Michael is the younger because you said him second, or they might have a flip understanding. Oh, James might be the younger one and then Michael might be the older one.
Oh,
But you're
okay.
not saying anything about their age. You just literally are stating that you have 2 sons.
Okay.
Well, what it really is, if you see, King James doesn't translate that exactly accurately. It should say there came to be evening and there came to be morning, right? So if you looked at it chronologically, you'd have day 1 starts, God does his creating, then there comes to be evening, there comes to be morning, that's day 1. Then he makes his stuff, there comes to be evening, there comes to be morning, that's the end of day 2, you know. It's a sequential order of events. I totally get how it can be mixed up and misunderstood. I really went in on that for a long time. I studied it for a really long time, but ultimately I ended up with there's many other scriptures that it ended up, I was like, no, it pretty much settled now. So,
Yeah,
I mean, it makes more
I
sense
don't know
now.
if you can see. Can you see?
yeah.
There's a lot of scriptures that talk about the day beginning in the morning as opposed to I'm still scrolling. It's a lot.
Still scrolling.
Trust me, it's a lot.
Mhm.
But once you have that foundation, all right, the day begins in morning. And you mentioned it, you're already on the right track. You said we're on the wrong calendar, right? We are on the Gregorian calendar. And the Gregorian calendar was made in 1582. So there's no way that the calendar can be the one that the Most High instituted. But this is the calendar that we keep worldwide, with the exception of a few countries. Like worldwide, it's highly, recognized as the right time keeping piece. So everybody keeps.
But he don't want us on that calendar, right?
Correct.
So we need to be trying to get away from that calendar.
Correct. But this is what we do. This is the problem. We say and we acknowledge, for a lot of people who actually understand that we're not supposed to be keeping the calendar. So they try to get away from saying the names of the days of the week. And they try to get away from saying the months of the year. And then they give the days of the week numbers and the months of the year numbers. But they still keep this same Gregorian calendar to count their days, right. to find the Sabbath. It's like, you understand that the Gregorian calendar can't be the true calendar. And you understand that the Gregorian calendar was created by a pagan society. So that's a pagan calendar. But then you turn around and use that same calendar to keep the Most High's appointed times and his feasts and his Sabbaths.
No, I want a new calendar. And then to hang up on the wall so that I can get used to looking at it, get used to reading it.
So the calendar, the Most High gave it to us in the beginning. So in the beginning, the Most High created the heavens and the earth. We've already established this, right? It says, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Okay? Darkness was upon the face of the deep. And then he says, and the Most High said, let there be light. And there was light. So that first part of it being dark, darkness on the face of the deep, and when the Most High said, let there be light, this is the first example of what we call new moon. Excuse me. Is what we call new moon. New moon. Let me continue on. I'm getting ahead of myself. So if you scroll down, okay, to verse 6, it says, and the Most High said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And the Most High made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And the Most High called the firmament heaven, okay? And then when you go, scroll down, verse 14. And the Most High said, let there be lights in the firmament of heaven. So we just read about him creating the firmament. And let there be lights in the firmament to divide the day from the night, okay? And let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. Signs, seasons, days, years. So signs, the word for this, hey Joel, I believe it's moed, right?
Seasons is moed. Signs is oat, which is like a beacon of something that indicates something. Okay. Moed is appointed times.
And seasons is appointed times. And days and years are days and years. They're actually just days and years. So
yeah, it actually.
So wait, so we are supposed to be paying attention to the astronomy?
Yes.
That's how the
But-
calendar works.
Because a lot of them was like, no, you're not supposed to be watching those stars and moons and suns. And that's demonic and all.
I'll say exactly, and that's what that's now it's different to try to base your life on this kind of things. I mean, if you're basing your life on when Mars was in whatever, you know, that's different when you were born and stuff like that. But no, the calendar is by the sun, the moon, and the stars. That's how the calendar is kept, and that's how it works. It was made for that. The signs, the appointed times, which is the Hebrew word moedim. It's not seasons like they translate it. It means appointed times or congregations. In fact, that was 23 when it talks about the feast days. The word feast is actually moedim.
Facts. So, you know, appointed times, days, and years, that's the calendar right there. He gave it to us in the first chapter of Genesis. Right? So we know from when he appointed the jobs, okay? Where is it at?
I think it started in 14.
Okay, yeah, and let them be for lights in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth, and it was so. So the lights in the firmament, they're meant to be our calendar, but they're also meant to give light. And he says, and the Most High, look at this word, made, not created, but made, meaning he gave them their jobs. He's giving them their jobs right now. He says, two great lights, the greater light to rule the day. What light runs the day? Sun. So the day begins with the rising of the sun. The sun dictates when the day begins. And the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. So the moon is a lesser light, and it rules the light. It rules the night. So it lets you know when evening is upon us. Whenever evening, the sun sets and the moon rises, that's evening. Right? So those are the two. So your calendar has to incorporate both, not just one. Your calendar has to be a sun. It has to have the sun incorporated and the moon incorporated.
Okay.
Right? Now look, check this out. You Google it. It says the Gregorian calendar is the calendar in current use in the Western world, both as civil and Christian ecclesiastical calendar instituted by Pope Gregory XIII in 1582. The calendar has 365 days with an extra day every 4 years, except in years divisible, non-divisible. Now, let me ask the question.
But I never seen the moon. I never seen the sun on there. I have seen the moons broken up though.
Yeah. So it says, is the Gregorian calendar a solar calendar? Let's click. The Gregorian calendar is a solar dating system. So it's solar, meaning it follows the sun. That's your red flag. Well, that's one of your many red flags with the Gregorian calendar. There's so many. But if you go back to the scripture, right, your calendar, the one that the Most High created, had to have the sun and the moon. This is only revolving around the sun. So that lets you know that this is wrong. There's lunar calendars, right? And those lunar calendars follow the moon. That's what lunar is for. It means
regardless of the sun, the lunar calendar follows only the moon.
Only the moon. And that lets you know that that's wrong. But you see how it says
Luni-Solar.
Luni-Solar. The Most High's calendar is Luni-Solar because it both incorporates the sun and the moon. The sun creates, well, not creates, the sun lets you know when the day begins, and the moon lets you know when the night begins.
And
So,
let you know when the month is, when the month begins, when the week begins. The sun is used for when the year starts and when the day starts.
right? So the month begins on new moon, right?
Right.
And then according to scripture, you have 6 days that you do your work. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And your
Right.
7th day is your Sabbath. Now, it also correlates to the phases of the moon. So this new moon is an empty moon with a slight sliver of light. So if you go back to Genesis, I think it was Genesis 1, verse 2 and 3, it said there was darkness upon the face of the earth. And then the Most High said, let there be light, and there was light. So the darkness, the dark phase of the moon, right when that light began was new moon day. And then the Most High created for 6 days, and on the 7th day he rested.
Okay.
Right? So with the moon, if you look at the phases of the moon, when it's empty, you know that that's the next day is going to be new moon day. And new moon day is a worship day as well. It's similar to a Sabbath, but not exactly a Sabbath. It's a worship day. You don't work on a new moon day, but you know, you worship on that day. And then you have your 6 work days and then your 7-day Sabbath. Well, on your 7th-day Sabbath, you're going to have this half moon.
So Sabbath is Friday.
No. Don't worry about the days of the week here. This is talking about January 29th of this particular year at this particular time. This is just a screenshot. Don't worry about the times. Okay, don't worry about the times. I'm not trying to confuse you. I apologize, but it's day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7 is a Sabbath.
Right.
Okay, so on your first Sabbath, you're going to have a half moon. And then the cycle resets. 6 working days, 6 days you shall conduct your work. And on the 7th day is going to be a Sabbath. And your 7th day is going to be a full moon. And then you're going to work for 6 days. And then it's going to be a half moon again. And then you're going to work for 6 days. And then it's going to be a slight sliver. Hold on, this one. These guys had it all day. This is the one I wanted to go into right here. But what I will do. Now we can do this. Okay, so new moon day will be when the first sliver, I think it actually is on this side, and then you have a half moon, and then you have a full moon, and then you have a half moon, and then you have a slight little sliver. again. Because the moon tells you when the month begins. Because when there is if you look into the book of Enoch, it tells you. Let me get my book right down. Okay, so in Enoch chapter 78, if you read verse 11 and 12, well, actually verse 12, it says, and on the first day, she is called the new moon. For on that day, the light rises on her. Can't really see it because the dang background. But verse 12 says, on that first day, so the first day of the month is called New Moon Day. For on that day, the light begins to rise on her. So the light of the moon, the phases of the moon, the way that the moon operates is the moon is blank. It's dark. It's a blank canvas. And throughout the month, light begins to gain on the moon until it becomes fully illuminated, before it becomes a full moon. Then once it becomes a full moon, the light begins to go out of it. And then it goes all the way out until the moon is empty again. And then it resets, right?
Okay.
And that's one full lunar cycle, one full lunar month. So when there's nothing in the moon, and the light first begins to get on it, it's New Moon Day. So that's letting you know that the month begins, right? And it's its own day. It's a worship day. It's its own day by itself. Then you have 6 working days, because by the 7th day Sabbath, the moon is now into the following phase. So it starts off empty. The light starts to gain on it. It starts to gain. And then you get a half moon. Oh, my hand is cold. So you get a half moon, right? And then you have your 6 working days, and then your 7th day Sabbath. By that time, it's now fully illuminated. You have a full moon. 6 working days, 7-day Sabbath. Remember, the light starts to go out of the moon now because it's full. So then the light goes out of it, and then you get a half moon again. And then 6 working days, 7-day Sabbath. By the time you get to your 7-day Sabbath, almost all of the light is now out of the moon, and you get just a sliver, just a crescent. They call it a crescent moon. But even saying a crescent is like, if you Google crescent moon, it's like a crescent, but it's like fat, kind of.
Right.
But we talking about a slight little bit of light, like a little bit.
Like a banana.
100%, you talking about like 4% and under. barely able to see. And so that's the moon's phases. And so the moon's phases correlates to the Sabbath.
Okay.
So hold on, let me show you. Let me show you something. Joe, you muted, bro.
Sorry, my kids are out, so I'm muted. So basically, the lunar phases are in approximate 7-day sequences between each phase, and then you're going to have an extra day or two at the end of the month before the next month starts, and then it resets. But what that to say is the Sabbath can be like, right now it's on Tuesday. Next month it oh, there we go. Next month it'll be on Wednesday. Then I believe it's going Friday.
So this is how the month is always going to be either 29 days or 30 days long. Always 29 or 30 days. And it'll always look like this. Anytime you read the scriptures, right? Anytime. And it actually annotates the day, the number in which the Sabbath falls. It's always the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, and the 29th day. You will never read in any scripture ever in the history of scripture that I've seen where it says that the Sabbath fell on any other day outside of these days. Now, this is on the Creator's calendar. This is on the Most High's calendar. I'm not saying that the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, and the 29th day is where the Sabbath is going to fall on our Gregorian calendar. This is how June, the month that we're in, this is how June looks, right? Today's June 21st.
Okay.
I'm not saying that it's going to be on the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, and the 29th day of the pagan Gregorian calendar. So since the biblical calendar follows the sun and the moon, using the moon to let you know when the month begins and the correlating Sabbaths, and with it being 29 or 30 days, it's going to float through the Gregorian calendar. It's never going to line up consistently with the Gregorian calendar. You may have a couple months here and there that just coincidentally fall on the same days. We had, I think it was May. In May, it just so happens that it fell on the 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th day. But when you go, and April, it was a back-to-back. But when you go to March, see, it fell on the 10th, the 17th, the 24th, and the 31st. February was 8th, 15th, 27th. Okay, so February it fell, but January it didn't. Going back to December, it didn't. November, it didn't. October, no. September, no. August, July, no. It don't line back up until
in for a long time.
So December of 2020. And even then, it was still not fully lined up because it was split. So needless to say, this year and was it February? February did it? Yeah. So February, April and May was some outliers, like complete outliers. But we don't keep this calendar. We keep the Most High's calendar. So as New Moon Day, because the way the cycle goes is you have New Moon Day start your month, your 4 Sabbaths, and then it resets to New Moon Day, right? And then the next month, this next month coming up is a 30-day month. So you're gonna have New Moon Day, your 4 Sabbaths, right? And then an additional day, and then New Moon Day again. Now, some people, they treat this day as just an extra work day. Some people treat this day as a New Moon Day. So they treat it as 2 New Moon days back to back. I used to treat this day as like an extra work day, but the more I study, the more I look into it, I'm leaning more towards there being another New Moon Day. So I treat both of these days as New Moon days. But the cycle always resets. And if you go to the 5th, right? Because we were just on the 4th. You go to the 5th, it's still the same thing. Nothing changes. New moon day, 8th, 15th, 22nd, 29th day. And you go to the 6th, say nothing changes. New moon day, 8th, 15th, 22nd, 29th day. There's a 30 day, but then it resets.
Yeah, see, the Yah's calendar is easy, you know. The Most High made this just so simple, but it becomes difficult for us because we have to first unlearn this complicated calendar that we're stuck on with the Gregorian calendar. Doesn't make sense. First, we have to unlearn that. Then we have to figure out how to juggle them both together in order to. So it's
the most difficult thing it is about keeping the Most High's calendar while you're living in the Gregorian world is work. What job, right? What job is going to say you go to and you said, hey man, I need to request so we're in May, right? So May 2022, say you want to request every Sunday off. Hey, I need every Sunday. And I'm also need the 31st, which is a Tuesday. I'm gonna need that off. Oh, and by the way, next month, I can work the weekend, no problem. But I'm gonna need all the Tuesdays. And then I'm also need the 29th off. Oh, and by the way, on the following month in July, you can keep the Tuesdays. I'm good there. However, I'm gonna need every Wednesday, and then also on that Friday. And then in August, I'm gonna need all the Fridays and also that Saturday on the 27th. It's gonna pose a scheduling nightmare, and most employers would not be willing to work with you on that.
Right.
It's very difficult to work for someone and keep the Most High's calendar, because the Most High's calendar floats through the months. If you notice, in April, New Moon Day fell on a Friday, and then it's gonna the day that New Moon falls is gonna let you know the next 4 of those days are gonna be Sabbaths. So the next 4 consecutive Fridays are gonna be Sabbath. But look at May though. When we get to May, New Moon Day fell on a Saturday. It's flowing through the Gregorian calendar. The next 4 Saturdays.
That's actually Sunday.
Sabbath. Oh, Sunday. Sorry, Sunday. Yeah,
it's all good.
4 Sundays are Sabbath.
So the Sabbath moves.
It moves on Gregorian calendar.
On the Gregorian calendar,
on the Most High's calendar. It's always the same on the Most High's calendar. Because remember, the Gregorian calendar was created after. It was made in 1582. We understand it as the only thing we know. So anything that, like, when we start to learn the Luni-Solar, we add the Luni-Solar to the Gregorian, but it should be the other way. The Luni-Solar is the first, and you're adding the Gregorian.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, okay, so we're going by the new moon, but the new moon on the Gregorian calendar moves.
On the Gregorian calendar, it will, yes.
But because but what I'm saying is that is the right way, right?
Right, but here's the thing: you want to follow
the new moon.
Follow this. Yes, you want to follow this. This is what you want to follow, and then
so it's always going to be Saturday.
No, this S is for Sabbath. This is the Luni-Solar. This is the Most High's calendar. It's always gonna look like this. So you're always gonna have day 1, which is new moon, your 6 working days, and then your 7th day Sabbath. It's always gonna be the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, and 29th. This is what has always been. What we did as mankind being wicked is we created a completely separate calendar system and we threw it on top of it. So now,
well, that's because they wanted people to worship on Sundays. But
Hello?
I don't know.
It still says she's in there.
Mm-hmm.
You there, sis?
I don't know. Maybe she was like, "Nah, that's too, it's too much. I ain't doing it."
I ain't ready for Luni-Solar. Bye. Hey, did you download this one on your desktop? It's dope.
I don't have it on my desktop. No, I just got it on my phone. I should get it on the desktop though.
It's so
Really
helpful,
should.
especially when you're doing like presentations and stuff. You can just share.
Oh, yeah.
And pull it all the way up.
Yeah, we'll be.
I have so much fun with it, and then it's just bigger. It like displays slightly differently.
Mm-hmm. Got all that info up there. Yeah, you know what?
Maybe her phone died. That's probably what happened. Mine was sitting over here on 4%.
Yeah, that might be what happened. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. But anyways, on another note, on another note, you wanted to briefly discuss that video.
Oh yeah. What'd you think about it, man?
I think it was very insightful. Like I told you, I had only got an hour into the video, and then I emailed Truth Seeker. So you already know it made an impact on me, because most of the time I'd at least wait until I finished the video.
Right.
To see if you're gonna contradict yourself.
Yeah, right.
But no, man, I was an hour in, and because I started watching it last night. I started watching about 20, 25 minutes of it last night, because I stayed up late, and then I continued it when I got up this morning for Shabbat. Let me just finish it up and check it out, because I've been meaning to get to Brother Matthew's videos. He's been dropping some videos, and the topics have been very interesting to me, so I've been wanting to get to those. So I'm definitely gonna get to those. I'll probably knock those out this week. But some of the stuff they were saying was a little different for me. I come, obviously, you know, I'm a flat earther, hardcore. Yeah. Whenever we talk about like aliens on a baseline level, it's hard for me to digest. But if you're talking about aliens potentially being angels, and then you can consider the UFOs, because all a UFO is just was an unidentified object, right? We say, oh, UFO is aliens, but UFO just stands for unidentified object, something in the sky that you can't identify. You don't know what it is. If the UFOs are actually chariots, flying chariots, which are mentioned in the scriptures, right? They are mentioned in the scriptures. If you're talking about it from that perspective, then I can kind of tie in and digest what you're saying. Yeah, I don't personally believe in aliens, because I don't believe in outer space. In other planets, from the perspective that there are these other physical masses of land floating around. Yeah.
That you can just go land on.
Right? But if you're talking about planets potentially being stars, or some form of that, or even something just like planets or what certain things are labeled that are put up in the firmament, I can rock with that, right?
Yeah. Oh, dude,
So,
did you ever read Spawn comics? No? Oh, okay. Well, in Spawn, they had really interesting concept. I thought the angels were like, they lived in this space station that like floated way above the earth. No one could see it. And some of them were physical and some of them were spiritual, right? Like some of them were non-corporeal, but other angels were actually physical and looked like people. And they had these, like, all this technology and stuff. It was so yeah, it was interesting concept. And I would actually say that it's more like that.
like angels are more, would you say like angels are more like us, but just so far technologically advanced that their stuff seems like alien to us, like, oh yeah, they're in a spaceship, but really it's just, you know.
Yeah.
I do know that there's different categories of angels and stuff like that.
Yeah, some of them actually have physical bodies and some of them don't. Some of them can shift between being physical and non-physical, you know.
Yeah. Like the one depiction of the angel where it's the big ball of the 1,000 eyes with the multiple wings and the ring, like the rings floating around, like,
Yeah,
that's creepy.
I know, right?
That's creepy. If something like that popped up in front of me, yeah, he would have to tell me not to be afraid as well.
Yeah.
But they talk, but in the video though, man, they hit on UFOs and aliens, but a lot of it was talking about, and I'm trying to remember it like verbatim because I had a 4-hour conversation with this brother, so a lot of our conversation is up here too. So
Right.
Trying to peel away what I watched in the video from a conversation, but he was talking a lot about all of the things that are like going on currently in the world. But he was like tying it all back to Christ. He was tying it all back to Mashiach. And the brother that was on there, he was giving his perspective. And on a lot of those things, they kind of, agree with one another, and they pretty much piggyback off of each other to an extent. But overall, I'd say that video, or that podcast, that interview, it was enlightening for sure, because especially for me, because there's certain topics, like, it's not topics that I shy away from. It's just that in the moment with where my focus of study is at, it just wasn't in the purview.
Right.
And then when I move on to my next area of study, it just so happens that it's just not in the purview. So I always like to hear other people's experiences, get their perspectives, and when they provide scripture as the foundation for what they're saying, I love it, because now I can, even if it's not in my purview of what I'm currently studying, I can reference, I can take note of those scriptures, I can take note of what you said, and I can put it on the shelf. So when I make that my focus of study, now I got everything that I need, and it's just like me unwrapping a package or opening a present, you feel me? And then I can get right into it. That whole concept is super dope. So I told him about you, and I told him big ups to you for sending me that link.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, you were the reason that happened, bro. That whole conversation, the upcoming collaboration musically, upcoming podcast appearance. Me going.
Yeah, dude. I used to listen to him like years ago, and for whatever reason I just forgot. I just hadn't listened to him in like a while, and then I found him again. And I was like, oh man, yeah, I remember. And
the Holy Spirit was like, see, you need to get back into this, because you need to refer this to me so I can.
I didn't even know that he did a podcast though. I didn't even know that. I was listening to some of his albums on YouTube, and then I just went to his channel and I was like, oh, he does a podcast too. And then I had listened to Destiny Lab before, and I was like, I bet that would be a very interesting conversation between those two guys. And so I was just like, oh, I'll listen to it. And then as I was listening, I was like, nah,
Yeah.
I gotta send this to someone real fast. I wasn't even. I think I actually did finish listening to it or send it to you, but it was pretty early on in the video that I was like, yeah, you know what? When I get a minute, I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, he said in the video that I guess it was highly anticipated. A lot of people were saying that those two needed to come together. I talked to him today. He said that they did a new one recently. They did one. So it's another podcast with those two guys together. Man, shout out to Truth Seeker. His YouTube channel is Truth Seeker, not SEEKER, but SEEKAH. Shout out to Truth Seeker. That brother is dope. That brother got a lot of content. He was on episode like 500. He's done 500 podcast episodes. Yes. And that's not including his other videos that he got and the content he got on his platform. This brother makes music. Same name. Go look it up. All digital platforms. Like, this brother's dope. And more so than anything, like, okay, he got a platform. He got music. You know, he's established in terms of, you know, how long he's been doing everything. Scratch all of that. When I tell you this brother has a heart of gold and he loves the Most High and he loves the Messiah, and you like it exudes from him just hearing him.
Yeah,
it's crazy because I was like an hour and 26 minutes into this man's video, and I was an hour in and I emailed him, and then he responded back like 20 minutes later. And he, you know, we chopped it up a little bit on email. I sent him my number. When I hit to an hour and 26, he called me. He called me and we had a 4-hour conversation. It was a great conversation. So it was weird as I got the video paused on my TV screen, and the same voice that I was just hearing come through my TV now is on my phone. And some people, they portray themselves differently when they're making a video or when they're in a public eye, right? And then when you talk to them, it's completely different, right? Like, some people, like, they want to be extra articulate and use all of these big, crazy, fancy words, and when you talk to them, and it's all slang and it's crazy. But no, this brother, with the same vibe that I was getting as I was listening to him have this dialogue with this other brother on the podcast, was the same vibe that I got from him when he called me and spoke to me. So that's what's, you know, stuck home to me more than anything. Like, the brother's spirit is right there. And I'm sure if you guys already know who he is and you've watched a lot of his content and you've seen him grow and know his journey and stuff like that, you guys know that he's been through a lot, right? But I didn't know the brother from Adam. But my first introduction was today with the video that you, Joel, sent me, right? So as I'm talking to him, I'm getting to know this brother, and he's telling me, you know, all of these different things. And I'm like, wow, like, we have a lot in common, but then we come from opposite sides of the spectrum in certain aspects. But that's why I love truth, because no matter, you know, what you may accept as truth stands on its own. It doesn't need validation, right? But when you have two different people from two different walks of life with two different understandings, and they can still come to the same point of understanding, that lets you know that you're operating within truth. And it may not be you agree on every little single thing, you know, instead of it coming together, it may be that your paths, you know, connect and you go back out and around and you just touch. But that place where you touch, right, that area is you're operating within truth, because no matter, truth doesn't adhere to doctrine. Truth doesn't adhere to religion. Truth doesn't adhere to personal feelings, opinions, or perspectives. Truth is its own thing. And so to get that reassurance, you know what I'm saying, hearing him talking, and he's coming from, you know, his walk is coming from completely different from mine, and we can still get to the same conclusion, right?
Yeah.
On a lot of different things. It's just amazing. So big ups to Truth Seeker. Check out his YouTube channel, check out his music. The brother got all types of stuff going on. And big ups to you for putting us in contact with one another.
Yeah, not a problem, dude. I mean, I didn't even know that y'all would get in contact with each other. I just thought it was interesting stuff on the podcast. I was like, oh,
I didn't
wanted to get your take on some of the stuff that they were talking about, because yeah, I agree with a lot of what he said, but he's also coming from a completely different perspective than me, you know, on a lot of things. And it's just like you said, you know, truth doesn't need validation, you know, it's just truth. That's just how it is. You know, I might know a certain truth, you might know a certain truth, he might know a certain truth, and then, but he knows something I don't, you know something that I don't, I know something that he doesn't, you know, and so on and so forth, you know. And so it's just like ironing, sharpening, man. You know, when we come together, we can pool the information, and yeah, it's just really wonderful. And you know, I mean, he might believe something that I don't. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
But it's like okay, you know, but that's his journey. You know, it's his journey to find that. And I mean, yeah, so it's cool stuff.
Yeah. Actually, it was crazy because I didn't know he was an Israelite at first. Before. Yeah, I didn't know that at all. So, like, just to on the bare basics, just to get to know another human being and you get to learn about their experiences and hear their commentary it's awesome. It's yeah, man. Thank you for that. Appreciate you.
Yeah, man.
Y'all keep an eye out for an upcoming collab. I don't know when it's gonna be or what the name of it's gonna be, but it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I've been vibing. I've listened to a couple of his songs already. I'm gonna keep playing them. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he's got this one song. What's it called? Yeah, I think you'd like it. What is it called? It's Disciples of Mysterium, I think it is. Oh, and you remember that Jewish rabbi that was talking about the Israelites were actually in, and they went to Africa and all that, and then you could hear him walking out whenever he said that.
Yeah.
You remember that Rabbi Harry Rosenberg? He actually had him on his podcast like 2 weeks.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, he had him on the podcast.
That's dope.
Sorry, y'all, my phone died.
I figured that's what happened. I said it was bad. Yeah. No worries, sis. No worries.
Oh, but yeah, the name of that track is where is it? Disciple.
It's still pretty low, so I don't know if it'll go off again.
No worries. We're getting ready to wrap up.
It's a pretty heavy topic to discuss, you know. It takes a good bit of research to really fully come to the conclusions on your own, you know. But as long as you're willing to seek out the calendar, you know, and do the research, as long as you really want, you know, you'll find it, you'll get it, it'll start to make sense. I know the first time I heard of different calendars, I had never even known that there's different types of calendars, you know.
See, I just want to keep the Sabbath. I don't want to break the Sabbath, and I don't want to be doing the wrong thing on the Sabbath. Because when it says keep it holy, what does that mean exactly?
So holy just means set apart in so many words. Keeping the Sabbath holy means you're just observing the Sabbath the way you were instructed to. Like it says, you shall do no work, no servile work on the Sabbath. So you're not supposed to be working. You're not supposed to be conducting business on the Sabbath. So that could mean going to work, or if you are an entrepreneur, not to be making business calls and stuff like that on the Sabbath. It says we ain't supposed to kindle a fire. Now we got to understand what kindling a fire is. Back in the day, in order to even, you know, cook a meal, you had to get wood. You had to get wood. You had to make a fire and cook. Some people take it really literally, and they literally don't do anything. Like if you make a sandwich on the Sabbath, you're not breaking the Sabbath. You're not.
Yeah, I thought that too. Like you're supposed to cook before the Sabbath.
I mean, to be prepared. I mean, obviously, the Sabbath, like you could literally prep for the Sabbath and have everything ready and good to go, and you don't have to worry about it. But there are certain things you are permitted to do on the Sabbath. A common misconception on the Sabbath from Isaiah chapter 58 is, you know, you're not supposed to do your own pleasures on the Sabbath. But when you look at the word pleasure and you look into the translation, it means to do business. It means to strike bargains. It means to do things that is work related, right?
Commerce.
It's not talking about your own pleasure or doing the things that you love to do. If you like to go swimming and that's a pleasure of yours, right? And it's the Sabbath, you can swim on the Sabbath. If you like to play video games, or if you like to watch TV or play with your kids, and it's the Sabbath, you can do those things on the Sabbath, right? The only question you have to ask is if you are brought before the judgment seat, right? Are you honestly, and can you be able to speak to that, right? Like me, for example, I love basketball. I love going to the gun range. I love to make music, right? Although, you know, running a marathon may be fun for some, it's not fun for me. So I'm not gonna run no marathon on no Sabbath. That's not what I'm gonna do. So a lot of people, they look at keeping the Torah and keeping the Sabbath holy, they look at it as this very, very strict, just rigid idea. And actually there's a lot more freedom than people give the Sabbath credit for.
It's actually wonderful because you know, working as someone who used to work 6 days a week, I used to look forward to Sabbath because it was the only day that I had off to do. You know, so I would just actually be able to relax. So
I keep seeing substitutes, but
Sabbath is just, you know, it's supposed to be a delight, it's supposed to be a pleasure, right? We're supposed to enjoy Sabbath. Sabbath was made for man, not man for Sabbath, right? But you've got to be able to, what am I trying to say? Like you want to do what you're supposed to in order to get the benefit of having Sabbath off. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, doing commerce and business and stuff like that, it's mentally taxing, right? It might not be physically taxing, but it's mentally taxing to try to work out business arrangements and all this kind of stuff. Then, you know, doing like physical labor, you don't want to be overexerting yourself, you know?
Right.
I had actually read a book a while back where it was talking about that on a cycle of 7 days, once in 7 days, the heart rate slows down very slightly, which creates the perfect environment in the body for rest and rejuvenation. But if you work on that day, you do any physical labor, it's actually like 3 times as taxing your body as if you did that any other day, right? And I can, you know, mental stuff as well, you know, mentally taxing things like thinking of business arrangements, stuff like that. So, if you rested on a regular day, you're not going to get as refreshed as if you rested on Sabbath. And if you work on the Sabbath, you're going to be more worn down, and your body's going to be way more taxed than if you did the same amount of work on another day. And just essentially what I was going at.
And I have one more. So idols. How in depth does that go? Because like, okay, I'm not even gonna go into idols because I kind of know what idols are.
Idols, I mean, but idols is a simple concept. It can be complex when you make it, but it's simple like this. Idol involves worship, right? Yes. That's like the essence of idolatry is worship. When you are creating, you know, statues and remote, like if this remote is an inanimate object, it don't have nothing special about it. It can't think, it can't move, it can't do nothing. It can't grant no wishes, it can't answer no prayers. But if I say that this idol, I mean, this remote is a god and I reverence it as a god, then I'm conducting idolatry. I've made this an idol, right? Now, here's a better example, right? So this right here, I got this from Guam. It kind of looks like a little tiki man or whatever. Some people would have made this and be like, all right, this is my God, and everybody worships it. That's idolatry. You can make anything or anyone an idol when your level of reverence for that object or for that individual falls along the lines of worship, right? Some of these people, they see their favorite celebrity, you know, like girls with Beyonce, they go to the Beyonce concert, they see her, they passing out, or vice versa. That type of thing, that's falling into the realm of idolatry. As long as you stay away from all of that, you're good to go.
Okay, because I do make dolls. I do make dolls, and I was like, okay, is this borderline idol? Because I make them, but I also collect them. And I'm not talking about them voodoo dolls. I'm talking about reborn dolls.
You're good.
I'm talking about silicone dolls, that the doll babies that look real.
Yeah. No, you're good. Yeah. Idolatry involves.
That was my only thought. Like, are these idols? Because if they are, I'm gonna throw them away. But yeah, I don't worship nobody but God. So I think I'm safe there. Like I said, I'm just going down the checklist and see if there's anything that I'm doing wrong that I need to straighten up.
And that's what we all always every day have to do that. You know, we all do that every day. I need to constantly, you know, reevaluate my life all the time, see if I'm doing something displeasing to other people. So you know, I mean, it's going to be a lifelong thing doing that, you know? But it's actually pleasurable to be able to learn. Oh man, I was mistaken. Now I can correct it. You know what I'm saying? It's just great.
Yeah, no worries. Another coalition member is seeking to learn more about the calendar too. So we'll probably all link up at some point and get more deep in detail. I'll send you a link to a video about it, and you can check it out. It'll help you better understand the calendar.
I'm still going through your series.
Which one?
I scrolled all the way to the bottom. I'm starting from when you first started the channel.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm watching all of them from the first time you started all the way up until the now.
I got like, I don't know how many videos do I got? Like 400 and something. It's gonna take you
I don't know. It's like it's a while back. It's a year or so,
Oh yeah, like
a couple years back. But yeah, I wanted to start fresh and go all the way up to the now, so I can kind
well,
of journey
a
with
lot of
you.
that. Well, that okay, if that's the case, but like a lot of that in the early days was when I was a Christian and when I had the Christian perspective and I was under certain influences and certain doctrines and stuff like that. So be careful. I keep it to show that growth, right? I keep those things up there to show, hey, this is obviously you're not gonna go to a video from me 8 years ago and then go to a video of me that I put out last month and say, oh, this brother, he wrong. He got some stuff going on. Look, he said this and then he said this. Obviously, 8 years ago, I'm going to speak on where I was 8 years ago. Now I'm going to speak where I'm at now. So if you watch them all, you're going to see the growth. But if you're talking about like learning, I'd say maybe
I'm just
20,
pretty much learning about you. So like that's my way of growing with you. So okay, I know he's pretty cool. Let me go and see what he's talking about from the beginning and how it changes throughout the the videos. And I just watch that, and the dreams, the visions, everything. Just I watch it all.
Okay. Now that dream thing, there's a playlist on there called Spiritual Encounters. It's 9 videos. It's a series. That series you can go and watch because it's anything within like the last 4 years is safe.
Yeah, I began watching those. I think I did 3 of them before I fell asleep. So
okay.
I still gotta go back and watch some more of those.
Okay.
I like them though.
Well, I appreciate that. All praises to the Most High. But yeah, it's getting late. I gotta help my sister real quick before I get ready for work tomorrow. But I appreciate you for jumping on here, sis. You kind of gave us something to talk about. We were just kind of freestyling today. We wasn't nothing like prep, so you kind of gave us something to talk about. And we'll be linking up. I'll send you that link to the video.
Because I'm on 1%. I don't want to.
Yeah, my phone is on 1% too. So, but yeah, thank you for coming on, Joe. As always, I gotta keep you close, keep you nice. You're my brother, man. I appreciate you.
I love you, bro.
Till next time, shalom.
Yeah. Shalom.
It could be odds. Look at the text. What did it say? This ain't a flex. Gotta believe that we part of his will. Y'all said the blueprint, just look at the specs. I cannot lie, keep it a band. We are his clay, formed in his hand. But even as clay, we're still filled with his breath. Ruach HaKadosh make us part of the plan. Anger and pride.